The world of the dinosaurs, or what is known as the Mesozoic Era, was a period of time spanning over 160 million years. An immense range that is difficult for the human mind, which only knows thousands of years of civilization, to comprehend. During that time, the geography of our planet was constantly changing. The supercontinent Pangaea slowly began to break apart, creating the continents we know today, and each continental fragment developed its own unique ecosystem. Imagine vast stretches of tropical forests, steamy swamps, and arid deserts, all existing under a sky different from the one we know. This was a time when the atmosphere may have been richer in carbon dioxide, supporting the growth of giant vegetation, creating an incredibly fertile landscape to sustain its largest inhabitants. Dinosaurs were the absolute rulers of the land, filling every ecological niche imaginable. Their diversity far exceeded the stereotypes we often picture. They were not just giant metators like Tyrannosaurus rex or long-necked herbivores like Brachiosaurus. They came in every size and shape, from creatures that could hide under our feet to titans that towered above the tallest trees. Theropods, with their strong, often bipedal hind legs, evolved into fast, intelligent predators. Sauropods, herbivores with incredibly long necks and tails, grazed on high foliage and dominated the landscape with their colossal size. Then there were the ornithischians, the bird-hipped group of dinosaurs, including the armored, horned, and duck-billed varieties. This extraordinary passage of time allowed evolution to play with various designs, creating bony shields, deadly tail weapons, webbed wings, and colorful feathers. Their existence is a story of evolutionary success unlike any other, a reminder of nature's resilience and creativity. They ruled the world through three major periods: the Triassic, where they first emerged and began to diversify; the Jurassic, the peak period of giants and lush forests; and the Cretaceous, the age when many of the best-known species, including Triceratops and T-Rex, appeared, and the period that ended with a great catastrophe. Understanding dinosaurs means understanding the history of the Earth itself, an epic featuring extraordinary scales of time and life. Although the Mesozoic era ended more than 66 million years ago, the dinosaurs left behind lasting traces that serve as physical windows into their past. The most iconic trace is the fossilized remains of bones, which have been preserved in sedimentary layers. The process of fossilization is a rare geological miracle. After a dinosaur dies, its carcass must be rapidly buried by mud or sand before scavengers and decay destroy it. Over time, minerals dissolved in groundwater seep into the bones, replacing the original organic material, effectively turning the bones into rock. Every bone uncovered by paleontologists is a rich archive of information. The shape of the bones can tell us about the dinosaur's posture and movement. Scars on the bones can indicate where muscles were attached, allowing scientists to reconstruct muscle mass and strength. Even microscopically, bones can reveal growth rates, metabolism, and age at death. However, their legacy extends far beyond bones. Revolutionary discoveries in the late 20th and early 21st centuries have revealed that many dinosaurs, especially theropods, were covered in feathers. This discovery changed our understanding of their appearance. These feathers were often preserved in rock molds or, more astonishingly, trapped inside tree resin that hardened into amber. Feathers in amber, sometimes retaining their original pigment, show an amazing variation in color, from deep browns to iridescent hues. This feather evidence definitively links dinosaurs to modern birds. In addition, there are fossilized footprints, known as ichnofossils. These tracks, left in wet mud that later hardened, provide dynamic information that bones cannot. Footprints can reveal the speed at which a dinosaur walked or ran, whether they traveled alone or in groups forming trackways, and how their weight was distributed. A single track can capture a fleeting moment in prehistoric life, a predator chasing prey, or a sauropod slowly traversing a lakeshore. Collectively, this preserved legacy allows scientists not only to look back at the dinosaurs' physical forms, but also to reconstruct their behavior, ecology, and even their feathery, colorful appearance. Popular narratives often focus on giant dinosaurs, monsters that dominate the big screen, but in reality, most dinosaurs were medium to small in size. The small theropod group, in particular, showed extraordinary diversity. One small star of the Cretaceous period is Microaptor, named for its tiny size. Fossils found in China revealed a creature only about 2 feet long, making it one of the smallest non-avian dinosaurs ever found. The most striking feature of Microaptor is its feather arrangement. Unlike modern birds, Microaptor had long aerodynamic feathers not only on its forelimbs' wings but also on its hind legs, giving it 4-winged surfaces. This discovery sparked debate about how dinosaurs evolved to fly. Did they glide from tree to tree, using all 4 wings for stability and control, or did they chase prey on the ground and use their feathers for acceleration? Regardless of its exact function, Microaptor is a prime example of an agile and adaptable dinosaur. The feathers on Microaptor also showed microscopic structures similar to those in modern birds that produce iridescence, suggesting that this tiny dinosaur may have been a jewel of the forest, with feathers that shimmered like beetles or hummingbirds. In dense forest habitats, small size gave them a major advantage. The ability to move quickly through thick vegetation, climb trees, and prey on small insects and vertebrates unreachable by giant predators. Microaptor and its smaller relatives represent the most successful evolutionary line, as it was the small and versatile ones that eventually survived the mass extinction. They are a living reminder that in the dinosaur world, ferocity did not always mean size, and that clever adaptation to a specialized environment was the key to long-term success. One of the most famous and intriguing paradoxes in the dinosaur world is the Stegosaurus. The iconic herbivore, known for the rows of bony plates on its back and 4 sharp spikes on its tail. Although its body could reach lengths of up to 9 meters and weigh several tons, its brain was surprisingly small, estimated to be the size of a walnut, or about 3 ounces. This extreme imbalance between body mass and brain mass puzzled scientists for years. In the 19th century, when Stegosaurus fossils were first studied, paleontologists, confused by the extremely small brain size, put forward an infamous speculation that Stegosaurus had a second brain, located in a large cavity near its hips at the base of the spinal cord. This hypothesis proposed that this second brain would help control the reflexes and movements of the dinosaur's hindquarters, especially its powerful, weaponized tail. Although the idea of a second brain was widespread in popular culture for decades, modern research has refuted it. The cavity in the hip region that was mistaken for a second brain is actually a nerve enlargement called the glycogen body, found in many modern birds and reptiles. This glycogen body is believed to function as an energy storage site for the nervous system, not as a center for cognitive processing. However, the mystery of the small brain remains. Scientists now believe that the small brain simply reflected the Stegosaurus's lifestyle as a herbivore. It moved slowly, only needed to feed on abundant vegetation, and its defense was passive bony plates and tail spikes. High intelligence was unnecessary for complex navigation or hunting strategies. The survival of Stegosaurus for millions of years with such a tiny brain proves that in evolution, intelligence is only one of many ways to survive, and simple strategies are often the most effective. The story of the Stegosaurus and its walnut-sized brain is a profound lesson in evolutionary biology. Success is not always measured by intelligence or complexity. Stegosaurus is a tangible reminder that effective defense strategies and the ability to exploit abundant resources can be far more crucial than advanced cognitive abilities. Stegosaurus was a slow, plant-focused herbivore, spending most of its time foraging. In its ecosystem, it had a clear niche, feeding on low-lying, plentiful vegetation. 2 key features ensured its success: its innovative defense and thermoregulation systems. The large, prominent, bony plates on its back, known as scutes, functioned as both a passive shield and, more importantly, were suspected to be used to regulate its body temperature. These plates were heavily vascularized and could act as heat radiators or solar heat collectors. A vital adaptation for such a large ectothermic cold-blooded or mesothermic medium-blooded reptile. In addition to the passive defense of the plates, it had a very active weapon on its tail, the Thocomizer, consisting of 4 sharp spikes, capable of inflicting severe damage on predators, including Allosaurus. This tail spike, along with its sheer body mass, turned this seemingly docile herbivore into a formidable opponent. One that did not need to run or outwit threats. By prioritizing armored defense and efficient thermoregulation mechanisms, Stegosaurus was able to thrive in its environment for millions of years. Its existence challenges the view that evolution always leads to increased intelligence. Instead, it shows that specialization in physical defense and ecological efficiency can lead to equally impressive levels of evolutionary success. It is a symbol of the power of physical structure-based adaptation over the need for complex cognition, providing valuable insight into the diverse paths to dominance on Earth. When picturing a dinosaur's mouth, our minds might immediately go to the sharp row of T-Rex teeth. However, the group of duck-billed dinosaurs, known as the Hadrosauridae, possessed a more astonishing and complex set of teeth. The dental battery. Hadrosaurs, such as Edmontosaurus and Parasaurolophus, were extremely successful herbivores that flourished during the Cretaceous period. The key to their success lay in their ability to process tough, fibrous vegetation that was difficult for other herbivores to digest. They developed jaws designed for horizontal chewing, similar to modern mammals, a capability rare in reptiles. But the real marvel was the arrangement of their teeth. On each side of the jaw, they had hundreds of teeth tightly packed and overlapping, arranged in vertical columns known as the dental battery. At their peak, some species could have over 1,000 teeth in their mouths at any one time. These teeth did not function as just a single row, but as a powerful grinding unit. When the teeth on the chewing surface wore down, new teeth that had already formed underneath would move up to replace them. The worn teeth on the chewing surface would form a rough, sharp surface, like a millstone, perfect for crushing the tough cellulose found in plants. This intricate dental structure allowed them to eat a wide variety of plants, including hard twigs, seeds, and high-fiber conifers, giving them a significant ecological advantage over herbivores that could only swallow their food whole. Hadrosaurs were also known for their wide snout, which looked like a duck's bill, used to clip large amounts of vegetation quickly. The combination of this clipping bill with the effective dental battery system made them highly efficient eating machines and allowed them to spread widely across continents. The Hadrosaur dental battery system is one of the most ingenious inventions in dinosaur anatomy, directly contributing to their ecological dominance. Their jaws were not just holders for teeth, but food processing factories designed for constant wear and tear. The most astonishing part of this system was the mechanism of continuous tooth replacement. Unlike humans, who only have 2 sets of teeth, hadrosaurs continuously produced and replaced teeth throughout their lives. Beneath the visible chewing surface, there were rows of replacement teeth waiting, like bullets in a magazine. When the topmost teeth wore down from the hard, abrasive grinding of food, the teeth below them would migrate upwards to fill the gap, forming an always fresh and sharp chewing surface. Analysis of hadrosaur tooth fossils shows that the teeth were arranged at precise angles, interlocking and reinforced by enamel of varying hardness, creating a surface highly effective for grinding tough plant material such as wood and high silica plants. The power of these teeth allowed hadrosaurs to exploit food sources inaccessible to giant sauropods or less equipped herbivores. Thus, this dental system was an evolutionary key that opened the door for them to become the most successful terrestrial herbivores of the Cretaceous period. They transformed what was fundamentally a simple reptilian jaw into an efficient and sophisticated tool, showing that in the evolutionary race, efficiency in energy acquisition can be a weapon as powerful as claws or horns. Their proliferation across continents stands as tangible proof of the power of this continuous dental adaptation. Triceratops, meaning three-horned face, is one of the most recognizable and iconic dinosaurs. Reigning in the late Cretaceous period, the most prominent feature, and certainly the most impressive, is its two large supraorbital horns above the eyes, which could reach lengths of over 1 meter 3 feet, coupled with a shorter horn on its snout. These horns were not merely decorative, they were vital tools for both defense and social communication. Considered a formidable rival to Tyrannosaurus rex, Triceratops was a tough opponent, capable of facing the most terrifying predator of its time. The sharp, piercing horns were used for direct combat. Imagine the sight of a herd of Triceratops facing a T-Rex, their heads lowered, forming an almost impenetrable defensive fortress. Their horns pointed forward to pierce the predator's thick hide. Beyond defense, these horns were crucial in social interactions. Similar to modern deer or mountain goats, male Triceratops likely used their horns in ritualized contests for mates or territory. Fossil skulls often show signs of damage and healing on the horns and neck frill, evidence that they engaged in fierce intraspecies combat. These fights not only demonstrated strength but also communicated fitness and dominance. A Triceratops with healthy, large horns would be more attractive to mates and more respected by rivals. Thus, these horns were versatile symbols, deadly weapons on the battlefield against predators and props in the evolutionary drama to display power and readiness to reproduce. Along with its intimidating horns, Triceratops was equipped with an equally iconic defensive feature: the large, wide, bony plate that extended from the back of its skull, known as the frill. This frill served dual functions as an armored shield and a visual communication board. The defensive function of the frill is clear. It protected the Triceratops's vulnerable neck and blood supply from the fatal bites of predators like T-Rex. When attacking, predators often targeted the back of the head, but the Triceratops frill provided a large, strong shield. However, the frill was also a complex display screen. The Triceratops frill was highly vascularized, and scientists speculate that it could rapidly change the frill's color, perhaps turning bright red or other patterns, to communicate various signals such as threat, health status, or readiness to mates, similar to how modern birds or reptiles use color for attraction. In a social context, the frill served as a crucial visual aid, signals that could be seen from a distance. A large, undamaged frill would indicate a strong, experienced individual, enhancing its social status. Therefore, Triceratops was an armored guardian that combined both passive and active defense. They are a symbol of strength and resilience, showing how evolution can create creatures that are not only capable of surviving in a dangerous environment, but are also able to dominate the landscape with spectacular visual displays. Their ability to combine strong physical defense with complex visual signaling made Triceratops one of the most socially and defensively sophisticated dinosaurs. If Triceratops was a walking fortress, then Ankylosaurus was a living tank, a dinosaur whose body was encased in nearly impenetrable armor. Ankylosaurus is the name for an entire family of armored dinosaurs. But the most famous genus is Ankylosaurus itself, which lived in the late Cretaceous. They were low-slung, stocky herbivores with 4 powerful legs, whose entire back and sides were covered with osteoderms or bony plates embedded in the skin. These plates fused together to form a solid, thick protective layer that effectively acted as a shield. Even the tops of their heads and their eyelids were covered by bony plates. This armor evolved in direct response to the apex predators in their ecosystem, especially Tyrannosaurus rex. The T-Rex's bone-crushing bite was one of the strongest forces ever known, yet Ankylosaurus armor was designed to withstand that force. Ankylosaurus fossils sometimes show healed T-Rex bite marks, evidence that they were capable of surviving encounters with this deadly predator, something that less protected herbivores could not do. As passive defense, this armor was the best nature had ever developed. Ankylosaurus did not need to run fast, they only needed to hunker down and rely on the resilience of their shield. The combination of armored defense and the tail weapon, which will be discussed next, made Ankylosaurus one of the most difficult dinosaurs to hunt. Although the Ankylosaurus armor was already extraordinary, the most fearsome and active feature of its defense was the heavy tail club, a truly formidable natural weapon. This tail club was an adaptation that evolved late in Ankylosauridae history. The tail was reinforced by hardened tendons and fused vertebrae, ending in a large, solid mass of bone. This club could weigh dozens to hundreds of pounds, swung with immense force by powerful tail muscles. This tail club functioned as a wrecking ball capable of breaking a predator's bones with a single strike. The speed and force of the tail club swing were hypothesized to generate enough power to shatter a T-Rex's leg bones or break its jaw. A direct hit to a predator's leg could cripple it or injure it severely, turning the hunter into a disabled prey. Evidence for the use of this weapon comes from fossil finds. Some Ankylosaurus show signs of damage to their tailbones, suggesting the use of this weapon in combat. Furthermore, some tail clubs show damage consistent with hard impacts. This tail club was not only used against predators, but may also have been used in intraspecies combat rituals, similar to those performed by Triceratops to determine dominance among males. The evolution of this weapon suggests an intense evolutionary arms race in the late Cretaceous as predators grew larger and stronger, like T-Rex. Prey responded with increasingly formidable defenses and deadlier weapons. Ankylosaurus is the perfect embodiment of the fact that, in nature, strong defense is often the most convincing form of offense. The end of the Mesozoic era was marked by one of the most famous mass extinction events in Earth's history, known as the Cretaceous-Paleogene KPG event. This extinction was primarily caused by the impact of a large asteroid in the Yucatan Peninsula, Mexico. The impact released energy equivalent to billions of atomic bombs, causing a cascade of global disasters. A devastating shockwave, widespread wildfires, gigantic tsunamis, and most fatally, a thick cloud of dust that enveloped the atmosphere for months, blocking out sunlight. This process halted photosynthesis, causing the collapse of the base of the food chain. Most terrestrial life, weighing over 25 kilograms, died. All non-avian dinosaurs, pterosaurs, and most marine life were wiped out. However, this extinction was not a total end to all dinosaur lineages. One lineage managed to survive, the small feathered theropods, which were the ancestors of modern birds. Their small size gave them a major advantage. They required less food and could shelter underground or in crevices. The ability to fly, although perhaps limited at the time, allowed them to access food sources inaccessible on the ground, such as seeds and surviving insects. Furthermore, they likely had faster growth and reproduction rates, helping their populations recover more quickly than the slow-growing giants. With the extinction of the giants, vast ecological niches opened up, and these survivors underwent what is called adaptive radiation, rapidly diversifying into the various forms of birds we know today. The extinction was a major transformation, where the rulers of the land became the rulers of the sky. The most extraordinary conclusion of modern paleontology is the recognition that dinosaurs never fully disappeared. They metamorphosed into birds. Every bird we see today, from the pigeon walking on the sidewalk to the eagle, soaring high above, is a member of the Dinosauria group, taxonomically. Birds are theropods, a branch of the dinosaur family tree that successfully crossed the KPG boundary. They carry the anatomical legacy of dinosaurs in their bones and feathers. Their bones, which are largely hollow, are an adaptation also seen in smaller non-avian theropods, providing a strong yet light framework. Their feathers are a direct evolution of the feathery coverings found on many small dinosaurs. Their existence is living proof of survival through catastrophe. Archaeopteryx, often considered the primitive bird, is a perfect transitional example. Displaying a combination of bird features, flight feathers, and dinosaur features, teeth, claws on fingers. Over time, adaptations for more efficient flight led to the loss of teeth, the fusion of tailbones, and the formation of a beak. With every birdsong, we are listening to the descendants of a lineage that began over 200 million years ago. They are a daily reminder that the dinosaur story is not over. It is a story that continues on a different page, where size has been replaced by speed and armor replaced by the grace of flight. When we see a bird take off, we are witnessing the continuation of the age when giants ruled. But they are a living legacy, the whispered echoes of a primal age that continue to fill our skies and our trees today. The world that sustained the vast populations of dinosaurs, particularly the gargantuan sauropods of the Jurassic and the heavily armored herbivores of the Cretaceous, was fundamentally different from our own, defined by a unique confluence of climate and flora. Throughout the Mesozoic era, global temperatures were generally warmer than today, with a notable absence of polar ice caps for much of the time. This equable, often humid climate fostered an environment of high productivity, providing the sheer volume of caloric energy required to support the largest land animals ever to walk the earth. The early Mesozoic, particularly the Jurassic, was characterized by the dominance of gymnosperms plants like conifers, cycads, and ginkgos. These were the primary food sources for the massive long-necked sauropods, cycads, with their tough palm-like leaves. And the fibrous needles of conifers were abundant, but nutritionally demanding. This tough, high-fiber diet directly influenced the evolution of the dinosaurs' specialized digestive systems, such as the elaborate dental batteries of the hadrosaurs or the reliance on gastroliths' stomach stones in some sauropods to mechanically break down plant matter. The lack of easy-to-digest flowering plants necessitated these mechanical and dental adaptations, shaping the herbivore's anatomy. A revolutionary shift occurred during the Cretaceous period, with the rapid diversification and spread of angiosperms, or flowering plants. The appearance of flowers, fruits, and broad, softer leaves introduced new food sources that were more nutritious and easier to digest. This botanical revolution led to an explosion in the diversity of herbivorous dinosaurs. The rise of the ornithischians, including the horned ceratopsians and the duck-billed hadrosaurs, is inextricably linked to the availability of these new flowering plants. The changing flora created new selective pressures, favoring dinosaurs that could chew it and process this softer, more varied vegetation, and leading to the complex social structures suggested by fossil nesting sites. The high productivity, warm climate, supported by elevated atmospheric text CO_2 levels, was the engine that powered the Age of Giants. A perfect environmental equilibrium that allowed life to push the physical boundaries of size and scale on land. The climate dictated the menu, and the menu dictated the evolution of the dinos. For decades, the appearance of dinosaurs in popular culture was largely a matter of creative guesswork, depicting them in uniform shades of green, grey, or brown, based on a limited understanding of reptile pigmentation. However, modern paleontology has begun to unlock the secrets of dinosaur coloration through the remarkable discovery of melanosomes in fossilized feathers and skin. Melanosomes are microscopic, pigment-containing organelles that determine color in modern animals. Crucially, their shape and density correlate directly with specific colors. Spherical melanosomes typically produce reddish-brown pheomelanone, while elongated, cigar-shaped ones produce blacks and grays eumelanin, and highly structured melanosomes can even create iridescent sheens. By analyzing these ancient, preserved structures under powerful electron microscopes, paleontologists can reconstruct the color patterns of extinct creatures with unprecedented accuracy. A pioneering example is the small feathered theropod Stegosaurus, whose fossils revealed melanosomes, indicating a tail banded with striking chestnut and white stripes, and a masked raccoon-like face. Another key discovery was made with Microaptor, which was found to possess dense elongated melanosomes across its forewings, suggesting a glossy, iridescent black plumage appearance, perhaps used for signaling or display rather than pure camouflage. This ability to determine color is more than a superficial detail. It offers critical insights into dinosaur behavior, ecology, and social structure. Bright, complex coloration suggests the use of visual signaling for courtship, territorial displays, or species recognition, much like in modern birds. Conversely, countershading darker on top, lighter underneath suggests camouflage against predation in open environments. The study of melanosomes is transforming dinosaurs from monochromatic reptiles into vibrant, diverse animals that engaged with their world using visual communication, revealing an aspect of their lives that was considered lost to time. The question of how some sauropods, the long-necked giants like Argentinosaurus and Patagotitan, grew to weights exceeding 70 tons, a feat unmatched by any other land animal, is one of the grand physiological puzzles of paleontology. This gigantism required a suite of extraordinary biological adaptations to overcome the limitations imposed by gravity, respiration, and resource acquisition. Crucially, sauropods evolved a bird-like respiratory system. Instead of the simple tidal breathing found in most reptiles, sauropods likely possessed a flow-through system with air sacs that extended into their necks and bodies. This system made their bones pneumatic, filled with air spaces, significantly lightening the skeleton while providing the immense tensile strength needed to support their mass. This enhanced respiration ensured a constant supply of oxygen and was key to sustaining their high-volume metabolism. Furthermore, their long necks were not just for reaching high foliage, they acted as a highly efficient grazing tool. By standing in one spot and using their incredibly long neck to sweep across a wide radius, sauropods could consume vast quantities of low-nutrition food with minimal energy expenditure from moving their massive bodies. This strategy maximized caloric intake relative to energy spent foraging. Finally, their relatively small heads and simple teeth allowed for rapid ingestion. They didn't waste time chewing. The food was swallowed almost whole and processed by the powerful muscular stomach and gastroliths. Their prodigious size itself became a form of defense, placing them beyond the reach of all but the largest predators. The sauropod lineage represents the pinnacle of terrestrial evolution, a biological challenge overcome through structural lightness, respiratory efficiency, and an ecological strategy engineered for the monumental task of simply getting enough to eat to maintain their breathtaking scale. The air above the Mesozoic land masses was ruled not by feathered dinosaurs, but by the pterosaurs, an entirely separate lineage of flying reptiles that predated, coexisted with, and were ultimately distinct from the dinosaurs. It is a common misconception that pterosaurs, with their membranous wings stretched between an elongated fourth finger and their ankles, were dinosaurs. While both groups belong to the larger reptile group Archosaurida ruling reptiles. Pterosaurs developed their power of flight independently and occupied the aerial niche throughout the dinosaurs' reign. This fundamental distinction is crucial in understanding the true origin of avian flight. True powered flight did not emerge from the pterosaur lineage, which eventually succumbed to the KPG extinction, but rather from the small, ground-dwelling Microaptor theropods. The transition from feathered runner to flyer involved a profound transformation of the skeletal structure, which is clearly documented in the fossil record. Key evolutionary steps include the development of the semilunate carpal, a half-moon-shaped wrist bone that allowed the powerful folding stroke essential for flapping flight, and the evolution of the key-like sternum or breastbone. This modified sternum provided the anchor point for the massive flight muscles, the supracoracoides and pectoralis, that lift and power the wings of modern birds. These structural modifications were the culmination of millions of years of selective pressure favoring enhanced gliding and flapping in small, arboreal or ground-dwelling dinosaurs. Thus, while the skies were shared, the evolutionary journey to persistent avian flight, the lineage that survives today, began not with the aerial dominance of the pterosaurs, but with the terrestrial ingenuity of the feathered dinosaurs. One of the longest-standing and most fiercely debated topics in dinosaur science concerns their metabolism. Were they sluggish, cold-blooded reptiles, ectotherms, or active, warm-blooded mammals, endotherms? The traditional image of slow-moving, cold-blooded beasts has been largely discredited by decades of research. Everything from their immense size, which suggests a high thermal inertia, to their active predatory lifestyles, demands a more efficient physiological engine. Modern evidence points overwhelmingly towards Mesozoic middle ground, where they maintained an elevated, stable body temperature, but did not strictly regulate it at the same high rates as modern birds or mammals. The most compelling evidence for this comes from bone histology. Studies of thin cross-sections of dinosaur bones show organized, highly vascularized tissues, fibrolamellar bone and annual growth rings, lags, lines of arrested growth. Crucially, the spacing of these rings indicates that many dinosaurs, particularly theropods and ornithopods, underwent extremely rapid growth spurts, sometimes reaching adult size in just a few years. Such rapid growth requires a sustained high metabolic rate that is simply impossible for a typical ectotherm, the highly efficient respiratory system. Inherited from their archosaur ancestors, as discussed in Chapter 16, would have been necessary to support this elevated metabolism, providing the necessary oxygen exchange and thermal dumping mechanism like panting to prevent overheating. Therefore, the internal thermodynamics of dinosaurs were likely complex, allowing them to remain highly active, maintain high energy levels for migration and hunting, and achieve their legendary sizes, placing them in a unique, highly picked successful metabolic class of their own. Far from being solitary monsters, the fossil record provides mounting evidence that many dinosaurs led complex social lives, characterized by both herd behavior and sophisticated sexual dimorphism and parental care. Sexual dimorphism, where males and females of the same species exhibit marked differences in physical features, is a key indicator of competitive social structures. In dinosaurs, this is often hypothesized to manifest in elaborate cranial structures, the crests of hadrosaurs like Patasaurolophus, the intricate frills and horns of Triceratops, or the large nasal domes of Pachycerat. These structures may have been slightly larger, more robust, or differently shaped in males compared to females, suggesting their use in visual displays during courtship or in headbutting contests for social dominance. More profoundly, discoveries in nesting grounds revealed evidence of complex family structures. The most famous example comes from the Maiasaura colonies, dubbed the Good Mother lizard, where nesting sites showed evidence of young staying in the nest long after hatching, suggesting the parents provided food and protection. This prolonged parental care is a trait more commonly associated with birds and mammals than with modern reptiles. Furthermore, vast trackway fossils confirm that many species, including sauropods and ornithopods, traveled in large, coordinated herds, likely for mutual defense, migration, or foraging efficiency. These herds often showed clear segregation of age groups, juveniles running together in the center, surrounded by protective adults, indicating structured, protective social strategies that underscore a level of behavioral complexity previously underestimated in these magnificent creatures. The discovery that many non-avian dinosaurs possessed feathers fundamentally altered our perception of their biology. Yet, the debate over the original function of feathers remains a central question in evolutionary biology. It is now widely accepted that feathers did not initially evolve for flight. Instead, they arose in small, fast-running theropods and likely served multiple non-aerodynamic purposes first. Primary among these functions was insulation. The presence of downy or filamentous protofeathers, even in large theropods like eukaryotes, provides strong evidence that dinosaurs possessed an elevated metabolic rate, mesothermies, as discussed earlier, requiring external thermal regulation to maintain body heat. These insulating coverings would have been crucial, especially for juveniles and small species, allowing them to remain active even in cooler temperatures. Beyond insulation, feathers played a vital role in visual communication and display. Colored or patterned feathers, evidenced by melanosome analysis, could be used for camouflage against a varied backdrop or, conversely, for flashy courtship displays to attract mates or intimidate rivals, much like the elaborate plumage of modern birds. Finally, as feathers became longer and more structured on the arms and tails of Maniraptoran dinosaurs, they began to provide aerodynamic assistance. Even rudimentary feathered structures could aid in stability during rapid ground movements, help control descent when jumping from heights, gliding, or assist in climbing slopes, offering a crucial intermediate step towards the eventual development of powered flight that marks the avian lineage. While the bones of dinosaurs, the body fossils, tell us about their anatomy, size, and species identity, a separate and equally critical field of study, ichnology, focuses on trace fossils, the preserved evidence of their activities. Trace fossils provide dynamic, behavioral data that skeletons alone cannot offer. One of the most revealing types of trace fossils are dinosaur eggs and nests. The discovery of dinosaur eggs, often found in clutches, has provided paleontologists with rich information on reproduction, nesting strategies, and clutch size. For example, the famous posture of the Oviraptor fossils, found crouched over a nest, demonstrated protective parental care rather than egg theft, fundamentally reshaping the dinosaur's behavioral narrative. Furthermore, the analysis of coprolites' fossilized feces offers direct, undeniable evidence about the dinosaur's diet and environment. Coprolites contain preserved, undigested matter, such as fragments of plants, conifer needles, seeds, or bone shards, allowing scientists to confirm the dietary habits of specific species carnivore vs herbivore and gauge the health of the ancient ecosystem. Lastly, the aforementioned footprints and trackways remain the most common and powerful trace fossil, detailing gait, speed, weight distribution, and social behavior, such as organized herd travel, providing ephemeral snapshots of living, moving dinosaurs frozen in time. The immense timeline of the dinosaurs coincided precisely with a pivotal era in Earth's geological history: the fragmentation of the supercontinent Pangaea and the subsequent drift of the continental landmasses. This colossal geological event profoundly dictated the course of dinosaur evolution, particularly through allopatric speciation, the process where populations become geographically isolated and evolve into distinct species. During the early and middle Jurassic, Pangaea still existed as a single connected landmass, which facilitated the global distribution of many dinosaur lineages, such as the early sauropods and large theropods. However, as Pangaea began to rift apart during the late Jurassic and Cretaceous, the emerging continents acted as isolated evolutionary islands. The separation created distinct evolutionary pathways. The northern landmasses Laurasia, consisting of modern North America, Europe, and Asia, developed lineages like the Tyrannosaurids and Ceratopsians, which became dominant there. Simultaneously, the southern continent's Gondwana, including South America, Africa, Australia, and Antarctica, saw the rise of unique, endemic forms. For example, Gondwanan sauropods, such as the rebbachisaurids and the massive titanosaurs, evolved different body plans and ecological niches compared to their northern relatives. This geographic isolation, driven by plate tectonics, resulted in a spectacular explosion of specialized regional dinosaur diversity just before the KPG extinction, leaving behind the distinct fossil assemblages we see in different parts of the world today. The Tyrannosaurus rex, often typecast as a mindless brute, was, in fact, an apex predator equipped with sensory capabilities far surpassing those of any living land predator today. Paleontological studies utilizing CT scans of its massive skull reveal crucial information about its brain structure. The olfactory bulbs, the regions of the brain dedicated to processing scent, were enormous relative to its overall brain size, indicating a highly developed sense of smell. This superior olfactory ability would have allowed the T-Rex to detect carcasses from vast distances, suggesting scavenging was a significant part of its feeding strategy, alongside active predation. Furthermore, analysis of the inner ear structures indicates that T-Rex had excellent low-frequency hearing, allowing it to detect the distant footsteps and vocalizations of prey and rivals across wide open plains, giving it an early warning advantage. The eyes were also forward-facing, providing superb binocular vision for depth perception and accurately judging the distance to moving targets during a charge. Yet, perhaps the most perplexing feature remains its tiny, seemingly vestigial forelimbs. Various hypotheses exist regarding their function. Perhaps they were used to steady a mate during copulation, to help the massive body push up off the ground after resting, or perhaps they were simply an evolutionary trade-off, where the arms were reduced as the head and neck muscles grew to accommodate the bone-crushing bite, regardless of their exact use. The sophisticated sensory apparatus confirms T-Rex as a neurologically advanced hunter, relying on a complex mix of sight, sound, and smell to dominate its world.